get you another shirt. T-shirt. Y'all ready? You don't live in your car? Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the October Elizabethton City Schools Board of Education meeting. It's awfully nice, so let's hope we can get out of here and you guys get out and enjoy this beautiful weather. If everyone would please stand, and Dr. Gardner is going to lead us to Pledge of the Flag, moment of silence.
You ready to have our moment of silence? Thank you. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. It's time for citizens to speak in accordance with Board Policy 1.404. Anyone wishing to address the board, please come forward, state your name and your address. Seeing no one, we'll move on. So it's time to approve consent and regular agenda. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Great. Anybody have any questions or comments on the agenda? Wonderful. Okay. Item on the floor is approve consent and regular agenda as it is written. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Dr. Gardner.
Okay, we had a wonderful first month of school, and that led into the big grand opening of the stadium. And so we had a very joyous time. I think that the mood in Elizabethton at this point is just absolutely fabulous. And I appreciate all the board members coming and supporting us on that night, and also all of our city leaders and donors that had given to us over that period of time. Would like to mention, of course, this evening we're all sporting our Race for Wandale T-shirts, and that is, of course, on Saturday with registration, on-site registration starting about 9:45, and volunteers will be there earlier. I want to report back to the board on a TOS conference that I went to this past week, and actually this week, not this past week, but I can say it's one of the best trainings I've ever been to in my entire educational career was this week. They put a lot of time and effort into having speakers that really focused on where Tennessee's going and the items that we really need to know in order to lead in our school systems. And so it was absolutely great. We're talking about public relations. We're talking about testing and what we're looking at, formative and summative assessments that we're doing within the school systems. There's a lot of good information that we'll be sending out to teachers tomorrow and the following weeks to let them know what's going on, and so they can be informed about where we are. Of course, you all know I'll be taking vacation next month. That's something I wanted to make sure between now and next board meeting, so I want to make sure that you knew that. I want to say some thank yous to a few people and people that are listening at home. Number one, I don't know if you know, the past couple weeks, the city has been doing some striping and work on protected places around Elizabethton High School and our other campuses to try to make sure that they're safe for students to pass between streets, parents have safe pickup, and other just common sense things that we've needed to do for some period of time. So the police and the fire department and our streets and sanitation and roads, we've all been meeting together to try to, over the last several weeks, to try to make sure that we had a good plan in place. Mr. Van Huss has been on that task force with me, and we've worked together with Mr. Wright, and so we really feel like we have a lot safer environment, especially when students are passing between cars, and so we want to thank them. The fire and police worked with us, and Jerry Stout from Homeland Security, they all worked with us last week on several issues, and so some of Harold McCormick in the high school, so we appreciate them for that. Today I had probably the best part of my week will be going to read to the pre-K and one kindergarten class over at Eastside, and they're celebrating reading right now, and so they invited me to come, so I appreciate having that opportunity.
What are you reading?
I read Where's My Truck? That's the book I read to them today, so they seem to enjoy that, and I enjoyed it probably more than they did, but it was great. And give you a little update on the music room and the stadium. Mr. Van Huss, do you have a little update on the music room? You can talk. That's okay. Go ahead.
First of all, again, we thank you for your support for the projects that we're working on, the ones that we've completed. We are obviously extremely excited about what we have completed and what's to be completed in the next few months. Band room, music room, they've poured the floor there, and work continues to go well. As you can see, if you've been by, they're actually putting up some block now, and that's probably a 6 to 7 week part of the project. So that's what you'll see most of the activity down there, between now and the next board meeting will be dealing with that. So just as Dr. Gardner said, a lot of buzz in the community, a lot of buzz at the school and everywhere, just the positive nature of things going on in the system, and you all are an extremely large part of that, and we appreciate you. Any questions about anything? I will tell you that next board meeting, we will have some information from GRC about all the final numbers on the stadium and all that. So we'll share that with you then. Okay?
It was very nice to see that the numbers are below what you thought they were going to be.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it was.
You need to work on the heel, clip
Yeah.
when you click your heels together before next board meeting.
I'll try that.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
Thank you. Good. And that's all I have.
No, good. Any other board members have anything? Okay. Mr. Wright, you want to tell us about some fun stuff going on at the high school, or all the great stuff going on at the high school?
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to come up here tonight and talk about a great high school, because it is. It's a place that I know y'all get tired of me saying these things about how much I really like being in Elizabethton. I'm on my 3rd year, and man, did I walk into something special. I mean, when I took this job, I never knew all these things were really going to happen, and they have. I have really experienced some great things. I mean, just the building of the stadium, the band championship, the girls basketball championship, and Coach Wilson, just all kinds of things that just fall into my lap. So I'm very grateful. And when I talk tonight, I am going to talk about great things happening at Elizabethton High School. These things were going on before I came, and I realize that. I'm trying to maintain them as the principal and make them better. Those guys sitting out there, I really thank the elementary schools, and I thank the middle school for what they do to get our kids coming over as 9th graders, and they're ready to roll as high school students. That makes a big difference. I think, that's where they get the basics, and they're doing a good job teaching the basics down at that level, so we really appreciate that. I want to start out by saying that I'm glad Mr. Wright went before me, the other Mr. Wright, because I think we learned from each other, and I learned something great from Mr. Wright. He gave me a great idea last month when he presented. We have decided to have an all-night, spend-the-night party at the high school. All 875 students.
I think
they'll all come too.
Oh, yeah.
And what we'd like to do is ask the board members to chaperone.
Yeah, I think that's a real good plan.
Would you do that? Oh, yeah. Special.
My daughter would love that. Mm.
Yeah, she would.
She would.
Yes, she would. The first thing I want to say is when I came to Elizabethton High School, I really didn't know what to expect. But one of the things that's dear to me, I think it's always been a guiding light to me, was the 3 R's: rigor, relevance, and relationships. I think the most important word there is relationships. and I found that at the high school. They're all very important, and I think as far as rigor, I think we're a very challenging high school to our students. If you have students who are new to us, as we talk to them on a daily basis, they think that Elizabethton High School is very hard. That makes me feel good. It really does. I think we make things meaningful to our students. I think they really see the importance of what they're doing. But more importantly, I think I know we are. We are building relationships at Elizabethton High School. And y'all, we're student-centered there. I mean, we really are. I feel it. And I've been in a school where it wasn't student-centered. I've been in a school where, in my opinion, it was teacher-centered. I became a principal of that school, and I spent the whole time trying to change that culture. And I think I finally did. But we think that's very important. One of the first things we do at Elizabethton High School every year before we start the school year, the first week we have class meetings. We meet with every class on an individual basis because they're at different times at the high school. We start off with the freshmen. They're new, and follow along. You'll understand what I'm talking about when I'm finished. But this summer I had a great opportunity to go to Montana. And one of the first things we did out there was we climbed a mountain. I shouldn't say climb with ropes. We hiked a mountain. I never do that. But, y'all, when we pulled up in the parking lot of this mountain, it was 10,000 feet. Now, I was riding out of Banner Elk the other day with my daughter, and we were facing Grandfather Mountain. And I said, Meredith, look at that mountain. That's 5,000 feet. I said, think of 10,000 feet. And so I'm in the parking lot, and I can see the top. And I'm saying, I'll never be able to do that. Never be able to do it. And so what I found as the top inspired me, of course, to try it. So as I say this is one of the things I expressed with the freshmen this year. You know, you're coming in here, you're in the parking lot. And when you graduate, I think they're graduating in 2019, I think. Anyway, we want you at the top. That's what we want out of you. And we're going to be here to help you. And I told them, it was the administrators up there talking, and I told them we're all counselors. That's our major goal as counselors because we want to help you get to the top. And we talked about the obstacles along the way. There are going to be obstacles. On that little hike I took, the first thing I did is I started hiking. We came up upon a sign, and it said, "You're now entering grizzly bear country." And I had read all about bear spray, you know, make sure you have bear spray and all this kind of stuff. And they even sell it at the airport in Bozeman. One of the first things you go to do is sell bear spray. It was $40. You can't put it back on the plane with you. So I said, I'm not spending $40. But that day, I wish I had it. I didn't see a bear. I said, you know, I probably wouldn't be here if I saw a grizzly bear. But you know, we did have obstacles along the way. You know, you're walking along looking at the switchbacks above you and say, oh, man, look how far that one is. We still got that to go. The thin air starts getting to you. You know, you're not used to that air when you get up there. There was lightning in the distance. And I was worried about, you know, stepping on a rattlesnake. I had all kinds of obstacles. But the little group we was in was, of course, my family. We were all encouraging each other. And I try to tell the freshmen, you know, we're here to help you with those kind of obstacles. Whatever you run into, that's what we want to do. And I think these guys will agree. We've had a lot of freshmen come to us this year with problems, and you know it's been that's great that they will come to us and seek us out because a lot of freshmen are scared of us. You know, principal and assistant principals they know those have that hard time. But we meet with every class, and you know. Like, I won't talk about every class, but when we met with the seniors, we said, you know, you're 3/4 of the way up the mountain now. You can see the top. How do you want to finish? We want you to finish strong. Go ahead and finish strong, getting to the top. And so that's how we set up the school year. And we think a lot of kids are buying into it. Now, athletically, you know, we're a 2A school in basketball. I think we're 3A in football. But we're a 4A high school. Let me tell you why I think we're a 4A high school. I think we're powerful in 4 areas at Elizabethton High School. I think we're powerful in academics. I think we're powerful in the arts. I think we're powerful in athletics. And I think we're powerful in activities, the 4 A's. Now, the activities. One of the things we also express to our students as they come to us is we say, belong to something. Latch on to something here at this high school. Belong to something. Make it meaningful while you're here. Get this now. We have 20-plus clubs and organizations. That don't include, I'm not talking about athletic teams. I think we have, 18 of those or something of that nature, around that something. We have over 20 clubs. Just started one last night. One was organized last night. It's called the Cyclone Service Club. It's based on the Ruritan principle, but as students, there were 45 kids showed up. 20 of them want to be officers. So there's going to be an election, of course. That's a service club. 45 kids want to belong to that. And I know you're familiar with several. I think we got well over 100 kids in National Honor Society. I'm not going to do all the numbers, but again, that's not talking about athletics. So we got kids involved. The last thing I want to say about our activities is, if you have over 20-plus clubs, think of the number of teachers who are volunteering to do those clubs. I think that's pretty impressive, because they don't have to do that. We don't make anybody do anything. They volunteer to do that because it's weird, it's kind of strange seeing some of the clubs that fit. Like we got a chess and gaming club that meets in the Commons, so they're right outside my door. And we hear them out there, we'll walk out there, they're having a blast. And you look out there, and that's their niche, that's what those kids like to do. And we give them that opportunity to do it. So we're very strong in activities. Athletics, y'all know more about the athletic tradition here than I do, of course. But let me tell you the first thing that impressed me about Elizabethton, and you don't see this in other high schools. Like the first football game I attended here as the principal, I kept seeing elderly people keep going in. And I said, are there that many grandparents in Elizabethton that are coming to see these kids play football? And it wasn't grandparents. The high schools I've been before, when their kids graduate, grandparents stay home. So it's athletics. Y'all know this. It's strong in the community, and it still is. It's the tradition. I'm very impressed with the Hall of Fame that you do here. I mean, there's just a certain mystique about athletics here. I'm not even going to go into all the championships. If you walk the halls of Elizabeth, you see the championship plaques up there. They're everywhere. I can remember coming down years ago, before I ever thought I'd be here, watching Science Hill and Elizabethton in a basketball game. And I remember walking in that lobby and seeing all that, all that stuff. The bad thing about that night, the gym was packed, and I sat up there in the behind the goal on the end, and I couldn't see the guy shooting a three-pointer from the corner. Unfortunately, Science Hill won that game, but it was a great golf. I was very impressed. Another thing athletically, we got great coaches. You know that. Our coaches want their athletes to succeed, and they support us in disciplinary matters, academic matters. They're behind us. I've seen coaches very shady in those areas. I think the Rutgers coach got fired not fired, but suspended for contacting a professor at Rutgers. And he got suspended 5 games, $50,000, so forth. But our coaches want to know what's going on with the kids, and they're willing to work us out. I could talk all night about how the character building in athletics. It's there. It's prevalent at Elizabethton. And then the stadium. I mean, y'all said enough about the stadium. I went out there today and watched football practice a little bit. It was so wonderful. I just see people having fun at the new stadium. It's just so relaxing, and I just love the stadium, and I know you do too. But I could talk on and on about all these things. Then finally, the arts. Look at the band. 140 members? I've never seen a high school band like this in my life. 3 or 4 of the last state championships? Just impressive. At the first ball game, I ran into a friend of mine, and he was down for the ball game. I was surprised to see him, and I said, man, it's a great football stadium, and a great game. He said, my son wanted to come see the band. He was a trumpet player, and he wanted to come see the Elizabethton High School band perform. I thought that's pretty neat, because you say, I'll come see the football team play. Very impressive. Our chorus performs everywhere, as you know. They've invited the state tournament last year and performed really well. Unfortunately, we weren't in the championship game. That would have been a nice touch. But we stayed, and it was awesome. The Arts just received a $2,000 grant. So that's going to be used very well. academics, I know I got to get to this board meeting. You know, all of them's going to be mad at me for taking too much time. But academically, I'm just going to throw some statistics out at you, okay, that are happening at Elizabethton High School. First of all, I want to say this. To me, the key ingredient of a successful school, some might disagree with me, is the teacher in the classroom. I'm not talking about the raising of the child. We know that's the most important thing. But in the school itself, I think the teacher in the classroom is the most important ingredient, and we are blessed with a bunch of great teachers at Elizabethton High School. Y'all know that too. Listen to this. 82% of our students complete the FAFSA. That's a bear. But you got to do it to get financial aid going to college. But what that 82% tells me is that we got kids wanting to go to college. That's a plus. Of course, you know about our graduation rate, 96.6, one of the top ones in the state. Listen to this. We're the top school. I didn't know this till recently. We're the top school in Northeast Tennessee for enrollment in the University of Tennessee. Did y'all know that percentage-wise? The top one. Guidance told me that. I didn't know it. We have more students in the Northeast area pass the chemistry test at Northeast State than any other school. Of course, you've heard about the RTI. We got one of the best. Dr. Gardner, of course, got that rolling. We got one of the best RTI high school programs in the state of Tennessee. You know that. And then we're starting this thing that we're going to start working with at-risk students as freshmen and sort of see them through the process as they move on up to seniors to keep them really interested in high school. I'll briefly mention the ACT report you've probably seen. I know Dr. Gardner shared it with you. We made gains in every area on the ACT, and the most impressive figure to me on the ACT report was it says 71% of our students are college ready. 71% compared to 58% in the state. That's impressive, y'all. That's great. I say all this to say those four powerful areas that I just mentioned, when our kids graduate, I think that they're ready for college, I think that they're ready for their careers, and I think they're ready to be great citizens. And that's our goal. That should be everybody's goal. And I'm going to close quickly. I'm going to read you, it'll take me a second, and this will be my closing. I want to read you a little email I got from one of our new teachers, okay, about 2 weeks ago. I won't use his name. I didn't ask him for permission. I know we do not cross paths much throughout our busy days, but I do want to stop and take a minute to say thanks. Even though it has been a whirlwind of a semester for me with getting caught up on lesson plans, WFAs, and planning in general, any member of this staff has not hesitated to help me in any way. Being the new guy is overwhelming, intimidating, and just plain weird sometimes. But here, it's like I have been a part of this forever. It has made the transition much easier, and it has eased the pressure that I had been feeling from initially getting hired. On top of the staff being incredibly helpful, the student body here is fantastic. I have had very little to no issues with behavior, respect, or any type of discipline whatsoever, and that says a lot about the staff and administration as well. Even though I struggle to stay ahead on my paperwork requirements in my first semester here, it doesn't feel like work. It is, however, a challenge that I would not want to take with any other group on my side. Based on my past experiences and work environments, I can safely and proudly call EHS home. That's pretty impressive of a new teacher and what he feels about our school. So that's the way I want to close. I know y'all come by and visit a lot. We appreciate that. Come by and see what's going on yourselves. And see you down at Unicoi tomorrow. Go Cyclones. Thank you very much for having us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. First item on the regular agenda. Time to approve agreement between Elizabethton City School System and Elizabethton Police Department for the School Resource Officer for T.A. Duggar Junior High School and the Elizabethton High School. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Just say this is, we've been doing this program for several years now, and the fact that we have a student resource officer at the high school and T.A. Duggar is absolutely essential to our safety. I feel our resource officers do a lot more than just roam the halls looking for issues. They do training with our staffs. They also work with parents and work with us on a myriad of different issues: traffic, safety, student issues, those types of things. So I would appreciate if we approved this.
Anybody have any questions or comments?
Just a question about the funding. I noticed that the city pays for the one at the high school, but the Safe Schools Act of 1998 grant, is there an end to that, or is that ongoing? I mean, can we count on that?
Go ahead, Mr. Bannon.
I noticed it started in 1998, but is that ongoing?
Yes, ma'am. Unfortunately, over the years, that the funding for that has been cut. I think this year we received somewhere around $13,000, and we just basically allot every penny of that toward the SRO, and then we make up the difference from fund balance. And then, for other things like as we need, security cameras, items, and things like that, and we just address those in-house as well. So every penny of the Safe Schools Act goes toward the SRO.
Right. But has it been shrinking since
Yes.
98?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, and before I was in this role, Mr. Hutchins was in this role, and I think at one point in time we probably received, I don't know, $30,000-$40,000 a year. You remember? Don't ever think it's been that much, but it has shrunk over the years.
So we just make up the difference in the general fund?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Who does the evaluations, and at what point do we see those on the individual officers?
Okay. We have started this year doing evaluations. A lot of times in the past, we have not, and of course this year have had, last year we had an issue, and so we're going to do one at Christmas and then do one towards the end of school. So we'll do and the Chief of Police and Mr. Van Huss and I met about that, and he is working on an instrument for us to use. But generally, the Chief has met with me 3 times since the beginning of school to make sure, especially we had one new officer that had never been, he had never been with the school system before, and we talked with him, but he has been very involved with us to make sure that we're satisfied with who we have and that they're completing the things that we need them to do. He also has done random checks on his own when he's come to be in the buildings, but we will have one at Christmas and one at the end of the year, and if you all would like to see the results of that, we can make that available to you.
I don't want to get involved necessarily in the personnel per se, but I want to make sure there is a mechanism, I didn't see it in the contract, whereby you have input,
Yes.
like you would on any employee of the system, and that the people who work with them and directly supervise are present, would have input on their performance in relation to effectiveness.
Absolutely.
And in that system. That's my only thing. I was looking, and it seems he reports to the Chief of Police, and therefore I don't know if they would have the knowledge to actually have an impact upon
It'll be more of a collaborative between the 2 entities. That person still is an employee of the police department, and they'll remain an employee. But we kind of have a shared responsibility, but that's kind of why we've decided to just kind of work together and make sure that. So, if we can look at that, and if we need to make that part of the contract in future years, we'll come back and revisit that again and put that in there.
Yeah.
How you feel?
Yeah, I don't think the board ought to be involved in any personnel matters other than yours.
Yeah.
But I think we should know that there's a mechanism for which that can be supervised, since they're contractually bound to someone other than a school system employee.
Okay.
Supervisory.
Sounds good.
I was just curious, when an officer joins the police department, is there specific SRO training for them to do this?
There is some training. I do not know that there's a specific program that every SRO goes through, but I know that they do training. The gentleman that we have at the high school right now, he was an SRO prior to coming to us in the county. The gentleman that we have just picked up a TA Duggar. I do not believe he was an SRO anyplace else. So he's responsible to Major Peters, and they do whatever training that they need coming on site and that type of thing. But one thing we've talked about over the last probably 8 months or so is the fact that when we have those officers in the schools, they're police officers. We're not having them have a lot of other responsibilities as far as looking after students and things. They assist us on certain issues, but we want the students to see them as an officer, because that's really what they're there. They're there to be a presence as much as anything else, but they do help with a lot of other things that officers would help with, you know, and that type of thing. So, but a training program, at this point, I'm not aware that there's a specific one that they have to go through in order to do that.
Any other questions or comments? Item on the floor is to approve agreement between Elizabethton City School System and Elizabethton Police Department for a school resource officer for T.A. Duggar Junior High School and Elizabethton High School. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item is approve agreement between Elizabethton City Schools Board of Education and Jackson, Shields, Yiser, and Holt for legal services from September 17, 2015 to September 16, 2018. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
We have been working with Mr. Shields and Miss Owen, primarily from Jackson, Shields, Yiser, and Holt for, we think, about February of 2009 was the first time they came on the scene. They have been absolutely phenomenal. I can't say enough about them during the process of all the issues we've had over the years, but I can tell you that we have a better response rate with them. They are back the same day. In fact, we were working on an issue right before. Miss Owen, a lot of times after hours, will call us back to make sure we're ready to go for the next day. You know, they're available by phone. We've had lots of meetings that I've had with them personally, special ed issues over the years, and they've attended by phone, and we've been able to do everything that we need to do with a very highly professional group. They've come and had free training for administrators on anything from, you know, doing effective searches to making sure that we're compliant with special ed and 504 laws and information, ADA. So I just think we've really never worked with a more professional group than these people. And we went back prior to the meeting to look at what we had paid prior to having these people. They, of course, charge us a by-hour rate down to even the 6-minute level. And we're spending less than what we did in 2006, back when we had another attorney, local attorney. And so we, on average, have spent less with it, so it's cheaper, and I feel like they have assisted us better than anyone we've had. So.
And I believe there is no change in the hourly rate. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I will say I have one regret, and that's we did not know about them years ago, because before I became board chair, I really never talked to. I had met Mr. Shields and Miss Owen, but I'd really never, you know, had much contact with them. There have been times that before particularly unnerving meetings that we were going into that we knew we were going to, you know, it was going to be particularly difficult. She has called me and kind of talked me through some things I needed to be aware of, just kind of some things that I would be prepared so that I could lead our meeting, and board policies, always pulling from board policies, and she has been, I mean, she's been great, because she has really prepared me to hopefully lead our meetings in a way that we would, you know, not embarrass the school system, and that we could get through them in a way that we needed to. And then she watches the meetings, and she'd call me the next day and tell me how, you know, everything went okay, and if everything. I can't tell you what that means to when you're going into meetings and you know people are upset, and to have someone talk to you before and just say, okay, this is what you need to do here, this is what you need to do there. that's huge. And when you go to Summer Law Institute, all the other school systems attorneys are, a lot of times they're there and they're being trained by our attorneys. So it's kind of cool. But they're amazing, and they really are very good at what they do. And no question is too small. When I was working with Dr. Gardenauer and we were negotiating his contract, Ms. Owen was working, she was our attorney, and Dr. Gardenauer had his person, and she was always, this is what the board needs to look at. And you know, she really made that, she helped me out very much, so I can't say enough about them. Any questions or comments?
I have a couple of comments. I'll be the first to admit when I came on board that I thought I was very skeptical of an attorney in Memphis so far away, and a lot of other people in the community had the same concerns and skepticism. And over the course of the last 3 years, I can see how it does work, and it's very economical. I don't think we could get it done any cheaper for what we're getting it done. And like I say, I've been pleasantly surprised to see that it actually does work. And the thing that we really have going for us, though, is the folks at TSBA, Randall Bennett and his folks. There's been times when I had some questions or something I didn't quite understand, and a phone call, and they'll answer your questions, they'll email you, and then it doesn't cost anything. So I think from a cost effectiveness, I think it's worked well, and I think the staff and the board chair have worked really well with these folks, and they've been very responsive. Like I say, I've been pleasantly surprised that it does work as well as it does.
You touched on something, having someone in Memphis, they have no ties.
Yeah,
there's no
conflict
conflict
as far as
yeah.
any ties with the community.
They just look at it.
They can be very neutral. They can be very objective,
yep.
and not worry about the local conflict of interest. So, like I say, my skepticism has turned into very pleasant surprise that it does work.
Well, I tend to agree with what Mr. Isaac said about the skepticism, and having only been here a year, I have no doubt that everything that you say is true. I just think that maybe after 7 years, it might be time to open it up to post the job and see what kind of local attorneys might be interested, just to see what's out there. But after what Mr. Isaac said, maybe it's probably true that, there's no conflict of interest. I just have this, call it what you will, a bias to hire local people when you can, whatever it is. I know it's $195 an hour, and you say you're getting a good price, you're getting what you need, but I guess personally I would like to see us open it up to see what kind of local attorneys are out there. I've done some research, and a lot of local districts there are a lot of trained local attorneys in this specific area in the Tri-Cities. And my only suggestion would be maybe it's time to open it up to a more local firm. But if you're all happy with what you have and you're all more experienced than I am, then maybe it's not. But that would be my suggestion.
I haven't had any issues thus far. As far as services, I was like Phil, I was a little concerned about it because they were so far away, and then I realized the value is having no potential for conflicts of interest. The second thing was that their specialization within their area was evident in that I think a lot of your savings is actually because they already know what to answer, and so 6 minutes answers your call. Whereas when we have in the past had experience with local, we often had to have research. And if you looked at the percentage of research charges relative to opinions, you would have that. Secondly, when they're local, they have a tendency to encourage you to have them present at all the meetings, which costs the cost of the meeting in time. And that particularly becomes easier for us to do. So we don't think on our own. We call our attorney to come, and they become an adjunct member of the board, and the board has, in those groups that have used it, will have an adjunctive board member, again, not a voting member, but nonetheless, they look to them for influence and advisement rather than thinking. And I think this forces us to think as a board and then ask the questions, and it forces us to be the ones to be the decision makers, but to do our homework. So I think it's been very cost effective. When you say 2006 and you do the math, that's 9 years, and there's been inflation, and we're still paying the same prices, and we're cheaper than we were in 2006 and
By
prior
quite a
years.
bit. By quite a bit.
By a large margin, yes. So I think, though, there is a tendency for our community to echo what Susan said, is our community has a tendency to want to keep the things that we expend money on as local as we can, and I think as a general principle we try that. We try to work with the most appropriate local that we can, and I have not done the research you have mentioned about there may be more trained attorneys in the area now. I haven't looked at them, but I'm also one of the people that if it isn't broken, don't fix it or don't mess with it too much. The enemy of good is sometimes better. So.
It also looks
That's a
at,
good bumper sticker.
Yeah.
Somebody tweet that.
and also looked at the length of the contract being 3 years, and you look, well, are we tying the hands of future board members and think, there's a year from now there'll be an election, possibly new board members, are we tying their hands? But there's a very, very general termination clause in here that makes it very simple that,
Right.
you don't have to do the 3 years. A year from now, if some other folks come on here and they see it differently, and it looks to me like it's a very simple termination agreement, no harm done to either side. So, again, sometimes you feel like there should be an attorney sitting down there, but you pay for that. You pay a retainer plus the hours worked. And I only can think of maybe one occasion when it'd be nice to have a legal opinion sitting here in the board meeting. Only one instance where I would like to have had a legal opinion.
And also with them.
That's when we were doing election of officers, and I think we were all a little confused of how to do that. The legal opinion would have been very helpful that particular night. That's the only instance that I can think that we really needed that. So, it's worked well, and the staff is comfortable with it, and they're the ones that are doing most of the calling and discussing with these folks. So, like I say, they're all scared. I feel okay.
And we can also, if we needed to, we can always Skype them in, because technology's sometimes it's an amazing thing, sometimes it's not, sometimes it is. Well, any more discussion? Let's vote on this thing. Item on the floor is to approve agreement between Elizabethton City Schools Board of Education and Jackson, Chill, Geyser, and Holt for legal services from September 17, 2015, September 16, 2018. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Next item is approved contract between Blackburn Children's Golf, PLC, and Elizabethton City School Board of Education for audit services for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2016, at a cost not to exceed $13,800 for activity funds and $18,800 for general purpose federal programs and school nutrition program funds. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second?
Thank you.
We've used Blackburn Children's in Stegall for several years, and I'll have to say that they have exceeded our expectations always. They're always a phone call away. They work well with Miss Wilson and her staff. They try to keep us as clean as possible when we need to make adjustments, and there are times where we do. They work with us all the way through the adjustments we need to make, and they're just very great to work with. I was at the city, and they were working with the city here recently, and went in and sat down, and we had a conversation about several different things. But they are very in tune with what's going on in our school system, and they go the extra mile to make us make sure we're compliant and following directives we need to. So I ask you to approve that this evening.
Any questions or comments on this? All right. Item on the floor is approved contract between Blackburn Children's Golf, PLC, and Elizabethton City School Board of Education for audit services for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2016, at a cost not to exceed $13,800 for activity funds and $18,800 for general purpose federal programs and school nutrition program funds. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Next item, approved contract with Kayla Carter for public relations services per RFP 2015-2016-01 at the rate of $18 per hour, not to exceed 1,300 hours annually. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we had our board retreat not too awful long ago. It seems like many months ago, but it hasn't been too awful long. And this is one of the things that the board had requested that we look at doing, and I appreciate that. I think that one of the major items what we're trying to do is get the good word out about what's going on within our schools, because we have a lot of good things going on a daily basis. And we want to make sure that we're not just looking at the activities and things that are going on. We also need to look at what our message is to the community. Hone our brand, make sure that we have a consistent message going out, make sure that all of our stakeholders are aware of what's going on within the school system. And that's one of the things that this is going to help us with. Our website, our media, those types of things are going to be rolled into this specific job. To tell you about the process and how we've gone about it, we put an RFP out and the request for proposals, and we had a couple people come back to us and come to the initial meeting that we had, where we explained the issues, what they might face, and tried to go through any questions that they had prior to putting a formal proposal together, and then they brought back their formal proposal. Ms. Carter met all the specifications that we had within the document, and she was the compliant bidder on that. And so we worked with her based on what we thought that it might take, and we put it together in an hourly rate and the hours we thought that it would take annually to be able to get the job done. And so it works out to close to about 25 hours per week. But she knows that she may work more hours one week if we have the stadium opening as opposed to other weeks that we may have, or the band concert week or band state championship or whatever. So we feel good. She's worked with us prior when she was with the Star, and we feel comfortable with her as someone that could come and do everything that we need her to do. It'll be a learning process since this is the first time for us, but we think we have a good direction and where we want to go with it.
Any questions or comments?
My question's in regards to, in her statements, in her proposal, she mentions that there's an extra $2 per hour charge. That's not reflected in our not to exceed number. It's $18 per hour, but that would, for videography, would add it to $20 per hour.
In this, we would probably work that out with the hourly rate. What you're approving tonight is the hourly rate that we'll spend. But if there is something on videography, I think with the number of hours that we work, we'll probably be able to work that out. She'll be giving a monthly statement of the hours that she works, and so we can adjust that based on if there is any videography that's there. We can adjust that hourly rate to make sure that she's paid amply for that.
Who will she report to? Who tells her what we need her to do for us?
Okay, Mr. Trent is over our technology and also personnel, but this will be an added job responsibility for him, and she'll also work with me. And so we're going to be meeting with her weekly and discussing what do we have going on, what word do we need to get out, what work do we need to have her do. She'll be working closely with the technology staff as we're making changes to the website and the information. She'll be really responsible for the content that goes, and then our tech gentlemen, they'll all be working with her to post it where it needs to be and make sure it's in a form that we're all happy with. We'll make sure it's approved before it goes out. But it'll kind of be a combined between Mr. Trent and I. But I think in the future she'll be in on a lot of meetings with, how we operate as far as principals meetings and those central office. She'll be a part of those meetings to make sure that she has the information of where she needs to go for the week and what she needs to do.
I know that we talked about this, doing something like this at our retreat. I was wondering if you explored, or even if it's a possibility, an internship, a student at Milligan or ETSU in the communications department that might be able to handle something like this to start? That's
a great idea. And in fact, Mr. Van Huss and I have just been trying to work with some people at a local university to come and try to help us tape the stadium and different things like that. It's much more difficult to find people that have that type of time in their schedule to be able to come and do this large of a job. 25 hours, even for a student, is it's pretty taxing on them. I think that in the future, maybe some people will want to come and see what she's doing if you approve her this evening. But we have explored that even as last month, trying to get some help, and that was pretty difficult. So for us to be able to do that. So
yeah, most internships, they work evenings because they're in classes during the day.
that's right.
And on the stadium, you know, we had the drone flying around. GRC did that, did they not, or was that some other individuals?
Yeah, an individual.
Go ahead.
Right. That was very effective, and I think a lot of people appreciated the ability to observe the progress and see that. That's where I kind of saw the value as somebody who does it full-time may have more of an opportunity to demonstrate effectiveness like that. The GRC people did it themselves with the help, apparently, of the other individual. And, you know, but I know a lot of people look to that. They've replayed that YouTube video of the stadium being built and of its opening, and I know they're working on a really neat one with the opening night and some things like that. And I think that was a value-added service that GRC didn't really advertise, but just did it for the demonstration of that. But I was very impressed with the public effect of it and how it helped our school system be known for the proper things. And positive, it makes it a lot easier when the negative things pop up if you've been remembered for that. So I'm in favor of this. My only thing was if we're approving her at the $18 rate, but she may be needing to charge us $20, we might want to say up to $20 per hour, allowing for a maximum salary of $23,000 or $25,000, I guess. That would give you.
So you're going to put that in the motion?
No, I'm just asking if that's what you want. If you want me to change that, I think we should make sure that we don't make it where we can't get her to do videography is the thing, because that's one of her services, but it adds more than we're approving per hour. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
The motion actually says up to 18 per hour, and I guess you'd have to add hours in, but I don't know if you can really add hours in.
Yeah, it would take away from the total. Okay.
Right. So I would either increase the total and just say up to whatever amount, and then
Do we want to do it that way? Up to.
So I will, if that's okay, I would amend the motion up to $20 an hour with a maximum salary of. It's $23,400 if you're at $18 an hour, but it's $26,000 if you make it a maximum of $20. If every hour she worked was $20 an hour, so you could possibly say up to $24,000. I don't think you're going to use that many hours of videography. So
Yeah.
So let's say I would make the amendment to the motion that we increase that up to $18 an hour with a maximum annual salary of up to $24,000.
Okay.
That's a motion. So.
Okay. Can I get a second to this amendment?
Second.
Okay.
Thank you.
So what we are going to say is that we are approving the contract at a rate up to $20 per hour, not to exceed, and then I wrote something else. What?
$24,000 per year.
Okay. I guess, do we need to ask, is it okay that we make that change, or is that acceptable to you? Okay.
I just kind of, from the budget standpoint, is this okay, Beth? I mean, budgeting wise and what money we're talking about, increasing it, that it'll work with our budget.
Beth
You've got
wasn't
somewhere in
dancing,
there
so.
that will take care of that.
I didn't know you were here.
Yes, everybody, this is Kayla. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I have no doubt that a PR position is a good thing to have, a really good thing to have. But in light of our funding situation, the way it is right now, I have an objection to spending up to $24,000 on a new administrative position when there are so many other things we could do with that $24,000, as far as maybe hiring another assistant or asking the principals what they need. Some are great, very great needs, and maybe tabling this until we find out what the city is going to give us next year. And I think this is the kind of administrative position that we need to really think about when we're spending our general fund in light of all the other needs that we have at this point. My objection is not to the nicety of having a PR service. It's wonderful. My objection is spending this kind of money at this time.
I think it'll take some time that administrative people are currently spending and to return it back into being productive is what I believe it will actually accomplish, but we're currently using other people to accomplish the same goals or just not doing it.
Over the years, one of our things that we've always talked about, and they talk about it at TSBA all the time, flood the media with the good things, flood the media with the good things, flood the media with good things. Principals don't have time, and teachers don't have time. Central office doesn't have time. You have a teacher out there shaking her head going, I don't have time. And there's so many good things, like we're spotlighting a school a month. We bring in kids when they accomplish great things, but there's things happening every week that we need to let people know about. And I agree, there's always, it's kind of like having a kid. It's never a good time to have a kid because there's always something you need to be spending money for. But this is kind of one of those things where I think our community, we talk about transparency, and one of the things we want to do is tell what is going on all the time. And I want the Star and the press to go, okay, stop now. I can't take any more. I want you to know that there's good things happening in every elementary school, or junior high or high school. There's, kids are the service clubs. I want to know what they're doing. I want to look and see things like that. And yeah, it's kind of a luxury, but it's something that there's so many things happen that nobody ever knows about other than their parents. And we put it on Facebook, and then people like it, and that's it.
And our city leaders have said, we all we see are sporting events, and occasionally, whenever you have an event to say honor the top 10% or something. But the reality is there's so much more out there that needs to be known about to get public engagement. That was what, if you remember when we were having the discussion, it was about getting the community involved and engaged. And having an engaged community, this is what the stadium did, the band stadium. I'm sorry, football stadium. I always get that confused. My son's in the band. So,
I think it's both.
Yeah. In this town, it could be easily both.
It could be, exactly.
The boofball. I don't know. Band football. We'll have to think of a name for him. But
not the football.
Not the football. I need a PR person to help me come up with it. But we need some positive press, I think, for the purposes of gaining community engagement. And what I think you'll also see is not only do administrators spend less time figuring out how to get their message out there through all the different avenues and media outlets of whether it be Facebook and Twitter or whether it be, news media. We always talk about the print media, and I think, we have good services there. It's free. They come and do their job. They get paid elsewhere. But the thing is, I think there's a lot of other messages that maybe aren't of interest to a newspaper or a television station that might be of interest to our students, parents, and community that isn't publishable maybe. An editor might strike it and say this is not going to make the paper, but the students and their families might want to have it on Facebook or Twitter or somewhere where they can follow along and gain that greater involvement and engagement in a community. What it does then is also prevent the wrong messages where we run into time and administrators are spending time answering questions because of the false message that got out or didn't get out because it wasn't newsworthy per se. It was our message. And so I think that's the other issue that I see in a PR person is bringing out other things that are important but aren't necessarily what you would print in a paper or on a television station.
Mr. Wright touched on something. Of course, I work in admissions at a college, and he talked about FAFSA. And there is nothing more intimidating for a first-year college parent than FAFSA. I'm in it for my third year. I still hate filling out that thing. But there are, colleges offer help with that, and having a PR person contact you know, sophomore, juniors, and seniors' parents said, hey, they're going to have a workshop where they're going to walk you through this, they're never going to know that. This is, I mean, the possibilities are endless with how we could communicate with our parents and our community leaders. I think that you talked about clubs. There's businesses that may want to start clubs. I mean, I just think that, and if it doesn't work, we know it doesn't work. But I think this is something that's long overdue, and I'd like to see us try this and see what happens. I mean, it may just be something that we're going, yeah, it's nice, but it's not really helping us, and
It's just a one-year contract, is that correct? In terms of the contract, is it just a 1 year? It's the reason I'm asking that, if it's just a one-year contract and we see that we're not getting the value that we thought we were going to get from this, then we don't have to do it anymore. But the way I look at it, in a lot of the local papers and some of the stuff, we have our monthly board meetings and it's reported on, and then a lot of times between those two board meetings, or that board meeting, you don't see a lot of stuff out there except maybe football scores or athletics, and that's great that they do that, but you know, there's a lot of other things going on too that would be nice if it was put out there in some form or fashion that people could learn about or hear about some of the things. But if it's, I just want to make sure that if it's just a one-year contract, you know, we don't have to do it next year if we don't think it's working for us.
And the other issue I didn't bring up but wanted to make sure I said was when we try to recruit and retain the best teachers and administrators, as we learned when we were looking for Dr. G, you know, that's a process in and of itself, and having the public, the eye in that, and again, it's nothing against the newspaper or the television stations that we have worked with in the past. It's the fact that it's a different type of outreach. You see what I'm saying? It's not just the routine. There's not just one way to get the message out. There's a lot of ways, and I think that's what a PR person can kind of help us with, is knowing what avenue is best for what, for which type of information. It may be that we're wanting to talk about vaccination of our students for influenza so that we don't have half the student body out, and it may be that they're helping us with the promotional materials for how to get that done. And that's the type of thing I see that role in doing other things for those times, and thereby helping the teachers.
Well, as far as the vaccinations go, believe me, I'm a volunteer in the schools. They know what's happening.
Sure.
The parents are inundated with notices. Yeah. Again, my objection is not to the intent or the person or the PR aspect of it. My objection is I don't think it's the right time to be adding this kind of position considering our financial status. Next year we may be getting more money from the city, you don't know, and maybe next year would be a better year.
All right, anything else? And I hope I get this right, and if I get it wrong, somebody tell me. So the item on the floor with the amendment, with the amended language is approved contract with Kayla Carter for public relations services per RFP 2015-2016-01 at a rate up to $20, not to exceed $24,000 per year. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Okay. Motion carries. Next item. Approve first reading of Board Policy 4.700, testing programs as proposed. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, this is a interesting one. You know, this is a housekeeping item. This is a suggestion from TSBA. But what I'll say is that this may change before the end of the year. This is going to be back up on again, and it is what it says here in the changes. The director of schools may exclude Tennessee, the TCAP basically, scores from students' grades if they're not received by the district within 5 instructional days at the end of the school year. At my training this week, the State Department reported that they would indeed not be able to meet this mandate. So they're looking at language, and they may have the legislature change this for this 1 year. But they have also reported that they would allow school systems to individually make their decision on what they want to do, whether we would want to include the 15% for this year or not. Now, the 15%, and I do not want to take a long time explaining all of this. I can do it with you individually, but it is whether we involve scaled scores that do not translate into percentiles. They are just basically the number correct that the student has achieved on the assessment, but it is not tied really to any scale. It's basically a number that says if there were 100 in the questions and the student answered 90 correctly, they would have a score of 90. But that is not on a scale of 1 to 100 per se. So
Basically, it's as clear as mud.
it's a very odd situation with the way they're doing it. And in the past, I will say that we have included that as a part because it's been a state law, and we've included that scale score in the past. But it's, this is going to change probably. So we, as a matter of law and what they're putting, we have to change the policy at this point because it is part of the law.
So this is just housekeeping. So
This
is
is
something we
housekeeping.
have to do to match the law, but it's probably going to change, and we're going to see this again.
We will probably see it again before the
Got it.
end of the year
Got it.
because they can't meet the mandate. So.
Yeah, that just,
Given that that's all it is, I'll go ahead and call for a vote then,
Okay.
since in discussing it.
yeah, thank you.
Could I ask a couple questions, Dr. Gardenauer?
Sure.
Are you sure you want to, Susan?
Well,
dig in.
I looked at some job descriptions here, and it seems to me that we already have people doing a lot of this. Our coaches do, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and the special ed program, they already do numbers 6 and 7. So, does it need? It says a system-wide testing program. It looks to me like we've already got it.
We have, it covers everything. Basically, this is not a change.
Just
It really,
changing the yellow part on the second page.
if you
That's
go to
it.
the second
That's the only
page,
thing
that's
we're
the only
changing.
thing they're changing.
Okay.
And then
the
they're
reason-
going to change it back.
The reason they're trying to
not
do
getting
that
used to it.
Okay.
is because school systems have filed complaints that they did not have the information to include in the grade cards for the mandatory 15%.
Okay.
They complained that it was not to them in a timely manner, and so those results. And so the State Department, well, they're hindering the State Department to say you have to have a line, because I don't know if any of the other administrators, I know Mr. Van Huss and Mr. Trent have been a part of this, but over time we have had a lot of promises of when scores would come back. They may come back a month later, they may come back 3 months later. And so they said, this is it. If we feel like we can get it back in that time, then we need to do that so schools can put that into their grade cards. So this is going to be interesting depending on what will happen at the end of the year. What we're facing, unfortunately, is if we decide, if the State Department cannot meet the mandate, and they've told us they probably can't, then we're going to have to decide about the last report card for our students. We'll have to make a decision at some point during the year and say, we're either not going to include it or we are. If we are going to include it and it comes in a month later, that means we'll be individually mailing all the report cards to parents a month later. After they have done that, and we will go in, we will not be able to finalize grades, which will also go back to our testing program and students needing transcripts and other things to move to other schools and them not having what they need. So I'm hoping that there will be a decision made, and hopefully in our favor, but we do have the option to opt out for this particular year. Next year, in the 2017 year, they say that they will be able to meet the mandate. So, but there may be some changes between now and then. So, but we are doing the testing program. We are meeting the requirements outlined in the policy throughout, and we're meeting all the requirements at this point.
I hope that everyone has seen the new task force, Tennessee task force, the teacher task force about testing. They recommend eliminating tests for kindergarten and first grade and several other grade levels. So it looks to me like everything's in flux right now. But
Once again.
I think that some of these people who recommend testing kindergartners and first graders should have to sit in the class and do it.
Oh, no
I
joke.
agree.
26-year-olds taking a 6-page test, it's not possible. It's just not possible. So
Yeah.
maybe they're finally listening.
Yeah, they also had a good report on starting school times. Did you see that one? That we
Yep.
should start at 10 a.m.?
They made 18.
That's like down my road.
If
I
that
like
happens
that.
after my daughter graduates, they'll never hear the end of it.
The parents would go nuts trying to get
Oh,
their
my.
kids to school after they
Oh,
went to
my.
work. But
Oh, God.
they said school performance was better if you waited till like 10 before you
So would
started
my
school.
work performance if they'd let me come in at 10. I'd work on
Mine
that.
would too.
Yeah.
Ms. Perkins, do you think you could print out that 18-point recommendation or 16-point recommendation from the,
We will be sending that to all teachers
terrific,
and all of you. That'll be coming out
great,
probably tomorrow.
thanks.
Okay. All right. Item on the floor, approve first reading of Board Policy 4.700, testing programs as proposed. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. Last item, approve first reading of Board Policy 6.200, attendance as proposed. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, this is another housekeeping item, but if you'll notice on page 4 of 4, in the past it said students with in excess of 10 days for unexcused absences. They've lowered that to 5, and it says also that we will have to, if there's an appeal, we will have to give parents written or actual notice. We already do that. We have a truancy review program that we have with the school system, and when they reach, we have letters that go out when they reach those days, and then we come in and sit down and meet with every single parent that is having truancy issues prior to us going to court. And so we're already meeting this mandate, even though it's changed on this. So, thank you.
Any questions? Comments?
The question on page 4, it also says, or those in danger of credit/promotion denial.
Mm-hmm.
This is only in regards to attendance, but not grades. It implies that they're in danger of not being promoted due to grades as well. Is that also part of this policy?
Well, I think the reason it's included in there is unexcused absences normally.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's an impact on grades, and so I think what they're trying to do is make sure parents are informed prior to them getting in truancy trouble and possibly not being able to pass because of attendance. So,
yeah, and that's my issue is I don't know if this is going to tie our hands to a point where if they were in danger of credit promotion because they missed 3 days instead of 5, but that plus the fact that they already had a low score in a grade, because if every time they missed, if a policy of a teacher was such that in my class, if you miss a day that's unexcused, I'm taking off points or not taking your homework, and they were already on the borderline, they may not need 5 days to be in danger of credit promotion the way that's worded. Are we going to be on the hook for giving an opportunity to appeal an attendance? You see what I'm saying? How are we going to police that?
the review process, if you're looking for in danger of credit promotion. Okay.
Yeah, it's on page 4, line 1.
When we were preparing, I want to say, we start when they get to the unexcused absence limit. We start working with that family at that point. So part of what we do in the truancy review process is look at their grades. So we look at all that, we put all that together, their attendance and so forth, and we take that and we kind of prepare that to get ready for court. And so, but during that process, we're going to look at, are they failing, are they having issues, those types of things. And a lot of times during, Mr. Plus will tell you, during that process, we find out a lot about people having difficulties during that time. So we normally we will try to work with teachers and that student and the family and give them, to try to correct their attendance issue, we would make it mandatory for them to, after a certain number of absences, they will have to have a doctor's note, of course, to come back. And that's one of the things that normally when they go to court, when they're looking at that student and the issue, whether they'll be put on probation or what will happen to them at that point, the judge is going to look at all those factors on that student. But what they want us to do is to make sure that we've sat down and met with the parent through that period of time to say, okay, what are the issues? How can we help? You have to get into school. And along with that, the juvenile court normally provides a youth resource officer that meets with us during that time when we do the review, not necessarily, when we're getting ready to go to court, but they're there during the process as well. And that really helps us because they know that there's some more meat in the program. And sometimes children are on probation already, and they'll violate their probation, and we'll work with them based on that. But I see what you're saying. I see that but I can say that during that conference, those questions are asked, and teachers also sometimes are asked to help us out.
So my question is about the trigger. The trigger apparently is when they get close to that limit, which is apparently now 5 days.
Yes.
Okay. And so I'm wondering if we aren't aware before that and at 2 days they're already in danger, are we still tying our hands to make them aware and have no way to know that they are in danger of it? Do we have a way to know they're in danger of it for academic reasons alone?
And I can ask Mr. Hobson and Mr. Wright, we have a lot of children that have nothing to do with truancy that are also in danger. Right. And so we work with them. We pull them in when we're looking at reviewing their 4-year plan and reviewing their grades and so forth. We look at that as them being, quote, at risk. And so that's part of the criteria we use. Come on up. It's part of the criteria we use also for them to get extra help.
I think the reality is it's not written very well, but I think what the intention is if some places have, and we used to have this policy, if you missed so many days unexcused, you automatically failed the class. It didn't matter what your grades were at that point in time. And if you notice down a little bit further, it says, the committee will conduct a hearing to determine if any extenuating circumstances exist or to determine if the student has met the attendance requirements would allow him or her to pass the course. So I think that's what that line means is if it's someone that reaches 5 unexcused or whatever the number a system may have if they have that policy in place. But it looks like it just lumps all credit and promotion. I just don't think that it's written very well. Yeah. So that may be something that we may ask maybe our attorney to look at as well, to just, because I do see the confusion there, but on down I think it tries to outline what they're trying to say. But I think that's the confusion.
They're probably going to have to clarify it with test cases, as things happen. It's something that's written and then they figure it out later.
I know I've been going, but it's not a perfect science. I mean, every situation is kind of different in a way. That's why we try to meet with every individual family to figure out what we can do for those kids. I've never heard of anyone that has this policy that it's anything less than 5 days. It's typically 5 days or a 10-day, something like that. So I know that we don't have that in place. If you miss 3 unexcused days, we would not automatically say you're going to fail because you had 3 unexcused days. Okay. So do we want to look at that again?
I'm okay. I think we got to start somewhere, but I'm a little, when we say a policy is not written well, but yet it holds the force of law once we pass it, I'm a little anxious about, my anxiety is I don't want to obligate the system to have provided notice for which we might have no way to provide that notice, and therefore wouldn't hold up to our end of, because it says, I'm going to get back to my shall and may, it says shall. And anytime I see shall, I read it a lot more carefully because it says school principals shall provide, and it says that they shall. And so if they shall have that opportunity and we don't recognize it in time to follow our policy, then we shall be liable for not following our own policy. That's my issue.
Okay.
And it isn't.
This is first reading, so I mean,
we have time to think through it.
Clarification, maybe they could bring that to us at the next meeting. It's just first reading. We'll see it again.
But if we don't have a policy for attendance, we need to pass this tonight because we have to have something in place.
We've got to have something in place.
We can always, if you pass on first reading, we can make sure that we look at it.
But this is something that apparently we need to
revise.
We've got to revise it. So.
Okay.
And we can always revise it again.
Yes.
Exactly.
Revise.
Yeah. And like you said, it may require a test case or at least you may have to kick the tires on this one as principals and look at it and see, what does this hold me accountable for? What am I obligated to? And can I know that information? And it's that line that gets me is, or those in danger of credit promotion denial. So, because I don't know if they have that knowledge in a timely fashion unless the trigger is 5 unexcused absences, because that's the one I think they'll obviously know, but I don't know if every class will know. They also define truancy as unexcused absence. It's on page 2 of 4, defined as an absence of the entire day, a major portion of the day, or a major portion of any class, study hall, or activity. And so if you're talking about a portion of a class and that teacher's individual policy is stated that if you have 3 unexcused absences, you're in danger, I think we have to know what our teachers' policies are as well, as they have to reflect that they're following the policy of the board, which I know ours would supersede theirs if it was ever in a hearing. But nonetheless, many may be stricter than we are on that, if they're allowed to set up their own grading policies. So that's my issue, is for the principals to not be, again, held out there where they might not be able to know that. But let's just do the first reading and revise it and let them kick the tires, and I'm asking you guys to read it before the next time.
Okay.
Bring us.
That's good. Conversation. Anybody else? I'm on the floor. Approve first reading of Board Policy 6.200, attendance as proposed. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Please do not forget, Saturday morning, be at Eastside Elementary School. Registration, if you haven't already registered, will begin at 8. I will be there. I'm working the registration table, so come find me. I'll take your money. Please be there. There is as much fun and as much community support as there was on opening night of the football stadium every time we do the Race for Wandell. Man, you're glad you live in this town. That's all I can say. I just kind of walk around. Everybody's taking pictures. It's a cool thing, and Josh is a great guy, got a great family, and so bring your money. There's going to be things, we'll take it. Just, we need to do this. Also, board, we need to get some dates to meet with Randall Bennett for our TSBA. So if you can give me some of those, that'd be great. Note for everyone, our next regularly scheduled board meeting will be Tuesday, October the 20th at 6:30 here in the Mac Pierce boardroom. So mark that down. It will not be the third Thursday. We're going to be moving it to Tuesday.
Is this going to be from now on?
Not just for this one.
Oh,
we are going to probably start talking about that at the next board meeting.
Yeah, you mentioned
looking at
that.
it. Yeah. We've had the same meeting forever, and we're just going to look at it to see if the third Thursday is what works for the board, works for administration. If it does, great, but we're going to have that conversation next board meeting to see, because it needs to work for us, and it just has been this way, and maybe we want to change it, maybe we don't, who knows. But
Dr. Gardner, you're going on vacation next week?
Not next week. It'll be next month.
Oh, next month?
Yes.
Okay. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
You deserve. Are you still doing the school walkthrough on the 25th with the city council?
oh, yeah.
We are.
Yeah, thank
we,
you.
We will be. We'll be on the 25th. We'll have breakfast here. Thank you so much.
I forgot.
We have.
We can come if we want to?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, there's nothing more fun than putting city council on a school bus and driving them around. You've got to be a part of that.
What time did you say?
9 o'clock.
Beware?
Be right here at Central Office. We'll have breakfast
Okay.
for you.
That is actually that's a fun day. Thanks, Susan. I'm glad you
We
mentioned that.
get to go and celebrate all the good things that have happened really in the past year, and talk with City Council about what's going on in the school system. Let them be exposed to our children, which is the best part. So.
Well, it's also a good time for the principals to show off the good things that they're doing, and also maybe suggest some things they need. Feel free. Feel free
Wonderful.
to the money people.
I like the way you think.
Yeah. All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Good night, everybody.